Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Tuesday, April 25th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith is off this afternoon, but he will be back tonight for the Betcast. And by the way, we might as well, since I brought it up, we'll just mention it and promote it once again. Another Stanley Cup Playoffs live Betcast tonight, Tuesday, April 25th, obviously tonight. 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live betting and commentary with the crew and guests, our viewers and listeners joining us, Drinking Encourage, DM at Bobano on Twitter, or email bobano350@gmail.com to request a spot on the Betcast. We will send you the link for it tonight. We got 3 games for the Betcast tonight. Do or die for the Islanders as they try to avoid elimination against the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 5. And then we got 2 Game 5s tonight with the series knotted at 2 games apiece with Minnesota, Dallas, and, of course, LA and Edmonton. So a nice trifecta of hockey playoff games tonight. So make sure you join us for the Betcast tonight, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's great to have our guy Ben back with us here on the show. Ben, how are you enjoying the playoffs? How have you enjoyed it from an entertainment standpoint, and how have you been doing from a betting standpoint here in the playoffs?
Yeah, so just from I appreciate you having me on again, Ian. Just from an entertainment standpoint, I was telling you earlier before we started the show, this is like I would say my strong second year, really watching every game and paying attention to everything. And, I'm just blown away. Every single night, I'm so tuned in, the Stars, the Wild, that's a great series. And then Rangers and Jersey, which I'm from Jersey. So that's awesome to see them going back and forth. Also this Edmonton and LA series, there's just been so much entertainment, all these controversial calls like this and that. There's so many things to be entertained by, especially betting wise as well. Like you've seen pretty consistent results with all these games. You see the Lightning and the Leafs, they've gone over every game. You see, or I believe every single game, I could be off one, but then we see the Kings and Edmonton keeping games very close. We see the Stars and Wild. We thought every game would be 3-2, but we're seeing some breakouts here and there on certain score lines. So just from an entertainment perspective, it's been amazing. Betting perspective, it's been really consistent. We're, I believe, 16-8-1 so far on the playoffs. So I'm happy with that. Nothing like a 26-3 run like last time, but I'm super happy with the way we're going and just the formula we're putting up. And yeah, let's just continue to kill it. It's been an awesome series in all the games. You're muted.
Been a great playoffs. There's no doubt. The action on the ice has been great. The officiating hasn't been, and I know they're already in the chat, everybody talking about the officiating. It's been awful. And to be honest, it's marred some of the games, but not enough to the point where, oh, geez, it's so bad I can't even watch. No, but it's definitely negatively impacted some of these games and the effect on the result in some of these series as well with the officiating, which continues to be night after night controversial and a lot of times not very good. I ranted and raved about that. Both Alex and I did yesterday on the show. And, they've got to really look into this in the off season, the competition committee, and look at ways to improve things and the standard of officiating, and it has to be held to a high standard, a much higher standard than what we've seen here in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Nobody knows what a penalty is. Nobody knows what a goal is. There's just all kinds of issues right now, and lack of consistency, lack of physicality is being taken away from the game because you're seeing a simple body check now being called a penalty, like for Foligno the other night in the Minnesota Dallas. I mean, just ridiculous shit. So they do have to figure this out in the offseason and iron out the standard when it comes to officiating.
Ian, one thing I would just ask you, do you feel as though like they are also not calling a lot of things as far as boarding and, interference calls as well? Like, I still think we are seeing a very, very physical playoff series this year. Like, so that's the only thing that's been deterring me from getting so mad about these calls, is because I feel like I've seen calls they aren't calling and they're letting them play as well. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, they're not letting them play. I think there's been way too many penalty calls here in the first round. Too many, way too many. That Islanders Hurricanes game was a disgrace Sunday afternoon. The number of penalties that were called in that game, there's no flow, and it just completely breaks up the flow. And coaches will tell you across the league that when there are a ton of penalties and it's a penalty parade, and there's no 5-on-5. They can't get their best players on the ice because a lot of the best players in the NHL don't kill penalties.
Right.
So you can't get them into the game. And when they're sitting on the bench for 8 minutes because you're killing 4 penalties in a row, it takes a longer amount of time for you to get warmed up and into the flow of the game, into the rhythm of the game, and get yourself into that, that feel where, hey, I'm on the ice, I'm doing the right things, and I've worked my way up to game speed. So it's a problem. And I'm hoping that there's some kind of NHL collective, like I said, meeting. Get on the phone with all these officials and say, you better improve your standard going into the second round, or else you're not going to officiate beyond the first round. So
yeah, we saw the Wild coach speak on that last night, just about being rewarded and all that.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
true.
I definitely hear.
It should be based on merit. If you do a good job, you ref in the second round. If you do a good job in the second round, you ref the conference finals. If you're good in the conference finals, then you get the big gig, the Stanley Cup final. And if you don't do a good job, you're not calling you're calling bad penalties. You're calling too many penalties. The goal and some of the goal calls, some of the calls out for 5-minute majors, all this stuff. You're not getting it right. You sit down and you don't officiate again. It should be by merit, and it usually is. So hopefully they make the right decisions on who is going to end up being officials here for the Stanley Cup playoffs beyond the first round. We'll look back at last night, of course, first, as we always do. It was a pretty entertaining night, very thrilling night in a lot of games, because every game was relatively close last night, starting with the New Jersey Devils, who now have a 3-1 lead on the New York Rangers. And I have some breaking news to share with everyone in the chat. I don't know if it's a product of the Rangers completely shitting the bed here in these last 2 home games at Madison Square Garden, seeing a 2-0 series lead evaporate, and now seeing the series tied 2-2. But we all have love in our hearts for our guy, John Massey. He's one of the great community members here of this Ice Guys show, and he's on our betcasts, usually in the later part of the betcasts every Tuesday night. Well, he's already told me he can't make it on the betcast tonight. Now, I think it's something that he's got going on in his life. I probably as to why he can't join us, but I'm starting to wonder too if it's maybe just heartsick and depression over what he saw from his New York Rangers the last couple of games, because that was tough last night to watch. I thought, in game 1, game 3, which they lost in overtime, Rangers didn't play that bad. They didn't play as well as they did in New Jersey, but I still don't think the standard of their play dropped massively from the first 2 games. Last night it did drop massively, and Gerard Gallant hit on it in the post game. Lazy passes that had no chance of connecting with a teammate being made through the middle of the ice. Just too much individualistic play last night from the New York Rangers. That's the problem sometimes when you, in certain games, now it wasn't an issue in the first 2 games, but it was especially last night, when you have all these talented, skilled players, Tarasenko, Kane, Kreider, Zibanejad, and that's not to mention, the young kids too, like Kakko and Lafreniere, and there's so much skill, they almost want to do it themselves, and not really share the puck, not really make the right play that's there to be made. I thought their neutral zone play was awful. Now, look, New Jersey did a decent job defensively, as they did in game 3, and certainly the goalie change to Akira Schmid really has sparked them, but that was awful offensive execution all night from the Rangers. The power play, which was lighting up Jersey in the first 2 games, has gone silent. The offense as a whole has gone silent for the New York Rangers here in the last 2 games, with just a couple of goals scored in these last 2 games that they ended up losing to the Devils. So all kinds of issues right now for the Rangers. And Gallant, I'm glad he said what he said. I think the team needed a little bit of a wake-up call after that game last night. Wake up. You need to be better than this, and saying we were too lazy and all kinds of things. So definitely a situation where the Rangers certainly, had pretty firm control of this series after New Jersey. I mean, we talked about the experience versus the inexperience, but what an awful job to not put your foot down and seize control of this series by the New York Rangers. And, you can't rest on your laurels, too, if you're the Rangers. Yeah, the Devils haven't been as good at home, and you've been good on the road, and you've pummeled them in New Jersey, but you can't just leave it to chance that, that they're going to lose again at home in Game 5 and in a Game 7 if it gets there. So the Rangers have really invited some serious danger, into the equation here with losing both of their home games after having a 2-0 series lead. And then, of course, the other game in the East, and then we'll get Ben's thoughts on the East games after we talk Toronto-Tampa, which was just absolutely bonkers what we saw there in Tampa Bay. And it's one of those wins where for Toronto, again, they were not the better team for much of that game, just like in Game 3 when they won in overtime. Tampa outplayed them. Tampa outplayed them last night again for much of that game. And at 4-1, I thought it was, everybody did, for the most part, except maybe our guy Alex B. Smith, because I'm seeing on Twitter, he had a plus 1,500 ticket on the Leafs. Man, most teams in that situation, when they made it 4-2 like they did, I would have jumped in on the live bet like I did with Colorado last night, which ended up, we got the draw live bet with Colorado, but we didn't get Colorado. But I still thought at the end of the day, this is the Leafs. Are they really going to pull a comeback on the road against this Tampa Bay team? So I wasn't firmly buying in to all of a sudden when the Leafs made it 4-2, that was going to lead to a comeback. But sure enough, it did. They had nothing going. That Alex Killorn shot, by the way, which I thought was going to put the game away, was a perfect shot off the post and in. The Leafs were kind of stuck in mud in the first two periods, but the Matthews goal got them going. And all it takes is one little breakdown and slip up in your defensive coverage by Tampa Bay, and you open the door for Toronto. That 4-2 goal was a rush goal that was bad breakdown defensively for Tampa Bay, that opened the door to come back. Then they took a bad penalty after that. Matthews again with the deflection goal to make it 4-3 on that power play. And then at that time, there's definitely concern for the Lightning as Toronto had the jump. Toronto had it in there. You could tell, went right to their skates, those two goals. They were all of a sudden all over Vasilevsky in the Tampa Bay zone. And, of course, another seeing eye shot by Morgan Rielly from the point ties it. And then, of course, in overtime, Toronto's controlling the overtime for the most part. You can see Tampa Bay's on fumes. They're at the edge of the cliff about to get pushed off. They take the penalty, Sergachev does. And then, of course, the point shot from Giordano, deflected in by Alex Kerfoot for the game-winning goal. 5-4, Toronto in overtime, an unreal comeback. And when you think of the fact this Leafs franchise and all the torment that they have suffered, 56 years without a Stanley Cup, 20 years now without a playoff series win, and including a 4-1 lead in Game 7 against Boston 10 years ago in a playoff series that they lost in overtime 5-4. And now they're on the right side of one of those games last night, down 4-1 in the third, come back and win 5-4. If that's not a sign that maybe this godforsaken franchise is finally ready to exercise the first-round demons, then I don't know what is. If they don't look like that, if the last night is not a sign, it's like Ace of Base. I saw the sign, and it opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Now you're going to win a first-round series. Maybe they are going to win a first-round series now, the Toronto Maple Leafs, after last night. Because, again, 4-1 up in the third, lost in overtime to Boston 10 years ago in the first round in Game 7, and maybe this year and last night in the same, being on the other end of that kind of outcome, down 4-1 in the third, coming back to win in overtime. Maybe that's a sign this team's ready to finally win a playoff series. And one more thing I want to point out. It's a great point. Tampa looks like, they hit a wall too. Once Toronto got skating, and they were skating all over the ice once they got those third period goals, they knew, hey, we're back in this game. Let's go for it. Let's win this fucker. Let's go up 3-1, and let's put this team right behind the 8 ball. And Tampa couldn't keep up. All the wear and tear, all the playoff minutes, all the games they played the last 2-3 years, starting to come back to haunt Tampa Bay. And Vasilevsky, let's be honest, Vasilevsky is looking human right now. There is no question about that. What's he given up now in the last 3 games in this series? 18 goals or something like that? It's ugly for Andrei Vasilevsky right now. And what a great, if you watched the game on Sportsnet last night, I can't say enough about what a great job as a guest analyst Detroit Red Wings head coach Derek Lalonde has done in the studio. Now, he has a great perspective on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Why? Because he was a John Cooper disciple. He comes from the John Cooper coaching tree. He was an assistant coach with the Tampa Bay Lightning under John Cooper for years before he got hired as the head coach of the Detroit Red Wings. And you won't believe what he said in the postgame after Toronto won that game. He said that when he was with the Lightning, the team did a study on Andrei Vasilevsky, putting all the game tape together from his early days, days before he even started in the NHL to when he was all those years with the Lightning when he was there. And he said in the postgame that by far the number one weakness in Andrei Vasilevsky's game, I always said it was his glove hand. You could shoot high on Andrei Vasilevsky and you could beat him there. Whereas down low, post to post, with his great athleticism and size, you weren't going to beat him along the ice. If you elevate the puck, you've got a much better chance to beat him. But what Lalonde said in the postgame last night of the Sportsnet broadcast of the game, he said the Lightning did a study when he was the assistant coach there on Vasilevsky's tendencies and his overall, style and level of play. And they said the number one weakness for him by far was tracking and finding shots from the point. And at that moment, when he said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that Andrei Vasilevsky's number one weakness is, tracking and finding shots from the point. Now, it's difficult for any goalie, but there are some goalies that can pick out the puck when it's fired from the blue line better than others. And for sure, Andrei Vasilevsky has, Lavone said it, right? And this is a guy that knows Vasilevsky extremely well all the years he was in Tampa with Cooper. He said that his number one weakness is tracking and finding shots that come in from the point. And usually it's not the hard slap shots. It's those seeing eye shots, those little tricky wristers where you take a little, mustard and velocity off the shot. And it's just floating in on you. And what did we see in this series? We saw Morgan Rielly, a little wrister floater, off a face-off win from the point area. Vasilevsky couldn't pick it up, couldn't track it. It's in the net. Last night, the tying goal that made it 4-4. Again, Morgan Rielly, a little seeing eye wrist shot from the point. Vasilevsky can't track it, can't find it, in the back of the net, tie game. And then, of course, in overtime, what did we see? Mark Giordano's point shot. Now it was deflected. I don't think any goalie's stopping that, but still, he couldn't find that puck, and by the time he did, it was in. It was a great deflection. I think you have to cut him a little bit of slack for that goal, because the deflection in that spot, no goalie's going to stop it. But there is definitely truth to what Derek Lalonde is saying. There is no question about it. He has a big problem, a big issue right now, finding the shots from the blue line, tracking them. And when you can't see the puck when it's being shot from that far out in the blue line, you're going to have a tough time stopping it and keeping it out of the net unless someone in front of you blocks the shot. And obviously it didn't happen on any of those occasions. So it was an unbelievable piece of analysis by Derek Lalonde to mention that. It's almost like he's exposing, Andrei Vasilevsky. You don't think every fucking team in the league now is going to hear what Derek Lalonde said and do the same thing the Leafs have done the last couple of games? And Toronto's going to stick to it in Game 5, Ben. Mark my words. Game 5, when they go home to try to close out the series, do you know what they're going to try to do a lot? Wrist shots from the point. Get traffic in front of the net. Take away the eyes of Vasilevsky. They know it now. They've seen it in action. The guy can't track pucks well from the point when they're shot from that area. Derek Lalonde is now saying it. It's the number one weakness by far in Andrei Vasilevsky's game. I mean, it's almost like he's put the book out there on Andrei Vasilevsky, at least to a certain degree, in terms of the best way to beat him. And Toronto has certainly gone to that well with those point shots, and they have had success beating Andrei Vasilevsky with them, including last night. So just unbelievable stuff from Lalonde, mentioning that in the postgame last night. Ben, let's get some thoughts from you on the two games that we saw in the Eastern Conference last night: Rangers, Devils, Leafs, Lightning.
Yeah, and I think I may need to put you on a song, man. Over here with the '90s karaoke, killing it.
I wouldn't go that far, but I enjoy it. I don't know if anyone else does, but I do.
Hey, auto-tune does wonders. Just trust me. But nah, great analysis. Love the breakdown. Yeah, so I didn't get to. I'm gonna more speak on the Devils and Rangers and Leafs and Lightning, because those are the ones I really had stake in, and I was just more tuned into. So I think I agree with you completely. Last night we saw we saw the Rangers just play extremely lazy. I think you nailed it on the head with the passes and just everything overall. It was just a complete lazy effort. And I want to give a shout out to Perlo in the chat, and who's just a consistent person on the ice, guys. I see all the time. When Schmidt got announced to come into goal, I posted on Twitter Rangers in over 3.5, and he was the first one to say Devils win. They play great in front of Schmidt. And, my angle was I don't think they're going to come into MSG down 2-0 and get the victory. But, hats off to him. He kind of nailed that on the head. And I'll say this. I think we're seeing all season we saw the Devils come back from deficits. Just in games, in their season, they've just been impeccable all season, even though I've been their number one hater and I'm from New Jersey. But we've seen them do impeccable things all season. We've seen them come back and win in overtime. We've seen them down 4-0. We've just seen them bring back deficits. So in my opinion, after seeing them win 2 games in a row, I kind of feel like we're getting this feeling of we did in the regular season in game. Now we're getting it in series. If you can kind of follow what I'm saying. So I think the just the age and look, I mean, the Rangers have great playoff experience. I think everyone on that Devils team, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if any of them have seen the playoffs yet. Am I right or wrong on that one?
Majority of them have not. Dougie Hamilton's played some playoff games.
Right,
Andre Palat, a lot of playoff games with Tampa. But there's majority have not played any playoff games till this year. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's so yeah, I just think we may see Jersey steal this one. I think that grit and that hunger from those young guys, and they got 2 guys who have been there before, so they can maybe lead them in the headspace, and giving them confidence in front of their net and feeling like, hey, let's just get back to what we did in the regular season. We feel confident with our goalie now, and let's just get the puck to the back of the net and run over any team in any situation. Let's not give up. That's what they're doing right now, and all hats off to the Devils. Jack Hughes looks amazing. He looks fast. He's scoring goals. He looks good. And yeah, that's my biggest thing on the Devils and Rangers. I really think we may see the Devils come back and take this one. Leafs and Lightning, amazing game. Super up and down as far as like the third period. I thought that was I had the Lightning, so I gave out Lightning plus 2.5. Let me look at my exact play, because this is my only worry. So I did Lightning plus 2.5, over 1.5 each team goals, and a goal in the first period. So that saved our night. And honestly, going into the third period, I was just hanging out with my dad. We were watching the game, and it was 4-1. And I was like, shit, I just need a Leafs goal. And then, I had Tampa money line as a side bet for myself. So I was like, all right, if we get the Leafs goal, we'll secure the money line and we'll secure the same game parlay. What happened? Leafs come back 4-4 and win it in overtime. I think they deserve that win. I think they showed up at the end of the period, and like you said in your analysis, is this the time they come back and they get through the first round exit? I think they opened up at minus 150 to win the series, and the Lightning were around plus 145, plus 125. And I was very tempted to take the Lightning at that price. Even before they got into the playoffs, even during their losing streak in the regular season, I still think their veteran ability was going to show in the playoffs, and it did in moments. But when we see a team come back from 4-1 in the third period in an important game to get yourself up in the series or tie it up, it speaks volumes. So in the end of the day, I'm gonna go for the Leafs to win this series, and that's my hope, and that's what I'm cheering for. I don't have any wagers on it, but from an entertainment perspective, I think they deserve it, and just from a hard work perspective, I think they're doing their thing. Avs and Kraken, I didn't watch the game. I didn't have any money on it. I felt the Kraken were going to come away with that one. I was leaning towards the under. I didn't put it. I just think that, okay, Kraken tied it up. They're doing what they're doing. Avs are doing what they're doing, what they were doing all season, is giving us this iffy feel. So I think they tied it up. It is what it is. I still think Avs are still going to come back and win that. I think they're just doing what they've done all season. They had a terrible start to the regular season, and they come back and they win the conference. So I think we'll kind of see the same type of situation with that. So that series doesn't interest me as much. From a betting perspective, it's cool, but it's just not as entertaining as the rest, in my opinion. Vegas and Winnipeg, I don't have much to say. I don't want to like spew bullshit. I didn't get to watch that game full through, but I think you killed it on the analysis, and we'll just leave it at that.
I mean, as far as the West goes, there's not much to say with Vegas and Winnipeg. They're just undermanned, and Winnipeg's undermanned, and Vegas is better. Okay, right. That's just what it boils down to in that series. And especially, they were already without Josh Morrissey. Nikolai Ehlers hasn't played a game yet in this series. And then they lose Mark Scheifele early in that game with the shoulder injury. He doesn't come back. I mean, that's just tough. I mean, it was already bad. You were down to 5D in Game 3, which you lost in overtime. And last night, you were down a forward, for much of that game. And to be honest with you, Hellebuck has not been at the level he needs to be. He's been okay, but he needs to steal a game or two or three in this series for the Jets to have a chance to win. And he's not playing well enough at that level in this series. And to be honest with you, Laurent Brossoit, man, this guy continues to just be strong, really, really good for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think the Jets fans kind of pissed him off last night with the your backup chance they were giving him last night during that game. That is, he basically shut them up with his performance last night in that game. So Vegas is in control. Winnipeg is banged up, and I don't see a road back for the Winnipeg Jets. It's probably a situation where it's a matter of when, not if, Vegas closes that one out. And then in the Colorado-Seattle, look, I give the Kraken credit. This is a resilient bunch, and they deserved that win last night. They completely dominated the game in the first period. Colorado got a little bit better in the second, and then ended up tying it 3-3. And I thought it was going to get away maybe from Seattle again. That, wow, Seattle just played so well in the first. Even in the second, they didn't play that bad. Colorado just capitalized on the few chances they had. And I'm like, oh, how is Seattle going to respond to this? But sure enough, they hang in there. Third period, they got their game back on the tracks again a little bit. And then they ended up winning in overtime. They got the power play. It was a right call to give Seattle a power play there in overtime. And it ended up being the game winner for Jordan Eberle last night for the game winner and the first playoff win at home in franchise history for the Kraken. Now, all of a sudden, we've got ourselves a 2-2 series, and the Kraken have life. Kraken have a shot. It's not going to be easy. Colorado still got home ice advantage. 2 of the last 3 games are going to be in Denver. But they didn't make it easy on themselves. Colorado could have made it a lot easier on themselves going up 3-1 last night. But now they've welcomed in some potential trouble. And we saw, obviously, the hit by Cale Makar on Jared McCann. I don't know if they handled this properly. They should have just given him a 5-minute major and a game misconduct right there. And then we probably wouldn't have to worry about, whether he gets suspended today or not. And sure enough, he did have a hearing with the Department of Player Safety. And from what we have learned, it is going to be a 1-game suspension here for Cale Makar with this hit that he had on Jared McCann last night. So 1-game suspension, which means he will not play in Game 5 tomorrow night in Denver for the Colorado Avalanche. And it's a huge loss, but let's be honest, they played a lot of games this year without Cale Makar. All right, they played a lot of games this year without Cale Makar. Bowen Byram and Devon Taves are worthy replacements in terms of eating up those minutes that are lost without Cale Makar. Don't totally throw out the possibility Colorado can win tomorrow night, even without Cale Makar in the lineup. But certainly it does help Seattle, and it still does hurt Colorado not having him in there for Game 5 last night. So there you go. Those were my thoughts on those 2 games. Let's give Seattle credit, And again, though, for the Avalanche, it's concerning to me. McKinnon and Rantanen, man, other than those 2 guys, we're not seeing enough from Colorado's other, support players. Compher actually had a goal last night, but really other than that, nobody's doing anything for Colorado up front. You might get through Seattle with this kind of situation, so top heavy, so reliant on Nate and Mikko, but you're not going to get through in LA or in Edmonton. You're not going to get through a Dallas or a Minnesota maybe in the next round. If you're not getting more from your third and your fourth line, you got to get some offense from those guys. And they've gotten zip from any of them. So that's something that bothers me here moving forward to with Colorado. All right, let's move on to tonight. We've got 3 game 5s in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we'll begin with a potential elimination game down in Raleigh, North Kakalaki. It's the New York Islanders and Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina minus 160, home favorites, up 3-1 in the series. The total is 5 here, pretty much across the board in this game. I'm going to sprinkle on the draw. That's the only bet I'm going to make as far as the side goes. Because I do think the Islanders, backs against the wall, whatever best effort they have, they will bring it. But I don't have faith in them winning. Carolina is the better of these two teams. They were dominant in Game 4. That was not a very good performance, I thought, from the Islanders there. Penalty trouble was a big issue. More defensive breakdowns than I've ever seen before. This notion that the Islanders are still an elite defensive team is a bunch of garbage. They give up way more shots than they did last year, 2 years ago. That's a problem. I find their defensive blunders have been more prevalent this year than we've seen in years past. And now they go to Carolina, who, by the way, what's their home playoff record the last 2 years? 9-1, something like that. Yeah, 9-1 at home in the last 2 years in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think it's going to be a tough chore for the New York Islanders to extend this series and get it back to UBS Arena for Game 6. That being said, they're not going down without a fight. It's a prideful bunch. Still have a good goalie in Sorokin. They've still got, some game breakers that have been quiet in this series. Like Brock Nelson had a good couple of games there. He's been solid, and Horvat, he got a late goal in garbage time, but certainly need more from him. You need more from Lee. You need more from Barzal in this series. You need more from those kind of characters here if you're the Islanders tonight in this game, if you're going to extend things. But, I like here in this game with the fact the Islanders need the win. And this is dangerous because Carolina is one of the best shot suppression teams in the NHL. They are excellent at not giving up a ton of shots on goal. But, man, if there's ever a night the Islanders are going to be peppering, Antti Raanta, it's going to be tonight with their backs against the wall and their season on the line. So I'm actually going to step in here with Antti Raanta over saves tonight in this game as well. Look, the way I see it, the Islanders have to throw everything at the net. They have to. It's not going to be easy, but the one thing you do get, because of the fact that I think even the odds makers are aware of how good defensively Carolina is, and they don't always give up as many shots from the to the opposing team, you get a pretty decent saves prop number, as a result. As Antti Raanta's saves prop is only 26.5 tonight. So I like it, over 26.5, minus 106 at FanDuel. Again, I think for this game, and the Islanders have been outshot in the majority of the games in this series, but if there's one game for them to flip the script, it's tonight. Down 3-1 with their backs against the wall. So those are the main pregame bets. Very, very light for me going into tonight. Islanders, Hurricanes draw, at a very nice price here. Just because I think the Islanders aren't going to give up without a fight, but I don't trust them to win the game. So I'm just going with the draw for a little bit. And, of course, Antti Raanta over saves here for the Carolina Hurricanes as well tonight in this game. As far as the total goes, I like over 5. I mean, we are seeing people just bet the hell out of the under, the last few games. And that's 3 games in a row in this series that have gone over the total. Now, the Game 3 over was, didn't deserve to go over the total, but it did. That was absolutely brutal. But this is an elimination game, and we're seeing over 5 minus 134 at Pinnacle. I'm going to be on the over 5 small, but what I will be on bigger, and I'm going to bet it after the second intermission. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what time it is. It's elimination playoff game. What does that mean? Third period over. We haven't talked about it at all yet in these playoffs because this is our very first elimination game of this year's Stanley Cup playoffs, and we are going to go to that well here tonight with the third period over between the Islanders and the Hurricanes. And again, if you're new to hockey and new to hockey betting in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the premise is very simple. If the Islanders are trailing in the third period, particularly by a goal or 2 goals, which is the ideal margin you want to see, ideally it's Carolina leading by a goal or 2 into the third period. The Islanders have no choice but to open up. no choice but to push the attack. Their season's on the line. Their season's over if they don't win tonight. And as a result, you get more chances, more of an open flow to the game in the third period in those situations. And that is what has made, over the years, the third period over such a very appealing bet. Now, you could lay the third period over pregame. There are books that offer the third period totals pregame. There's over 1.5 minus 175 for the third period at BetMGM. That's a lot of juice. I would probably prefer over 2 plus 105 at BetMGM, which is available right now, because then obviously you don't pay the juice. It obviously is going to take 3 goals in the third period to cash that bet, but at least if it lands exactly on 2 third period goals, it's a push. You don't lose. So that is definitely, again, one of the thought processes, one of the many playoff betting strategies we have talked about over the years. Third period overs in elimination games. So I'm going to do a split, a little on over 5 for the full game, but I'm probably going to go a little bit more with that over in the third period. The third period over is the stronger of the two for me in this game. I like the third period over more than the full game over in this game, but I'll have a piece of both pregame. Again, if you want to bet it now, it is available at BetMGM. Chris Otto in the chat saying it's also available at Bet Rivers, and it looks like the price at Bet Rivers is a little bit better. Over 1.5 minus 159 in the third period for this game at Bet Rivers, and over 2 plus 128 for the third period at Bet Rivers. So, yeah, definitely shop around. But yeah, we're going to be talking about this practice a lot. Third period overs throughout the playoffs in elimination games. Ben, what do you think here? Islanders Hurricanes game 5.
Yeah, so this is one of the series that I've actually stayed off of. I actually haven't even had a wager on this series tonight, but tonight will be the first time I do. I think we can kind of count this series over at this point. Just me personally. I think the Hurricanes like to play in front, and I think they're going to be good at protecting this lead, not only in the game, but also in the series. And the last thing I think Carolina wants to do is go back to New York and after just winning 5-2. So I think that's kind of a strong deterrent for me to stay on the Hurricanes tonight. You said they're 9-1 in the last 10 playoff games. Well, the Islanders are 2-8 in the last 10 games of Carolina. So that also helps with that. I think this also speaks, I think Carolina has been the better team throughout this whole series. You speak on game 3. Like you said, it should have went under, and the Hurricanes should have won that game. We see 4 goals from the Islanders in the last 4 minutes, I believe. The third one coming from a power play and the fourth one coming from an empty net. But I still believe Carolina should have won that game, and I think they'll do that tonight. I don't think they want to go back to New York. I think they like to play in front. And hey, I also think the depth on this team is speaking volumes right now. We have a couple injuries, and we've had a few throughout the series. And look, players are just stepping up. They're doing what they need to do. And I think depth. It doesn't matter what series you're watching, NBA, this or that. It doesn't matter. Depth, I feel, is probably the best thing you can have as a team in sports, because people are going to get injured, and you need to count on your goalie, or you need to count on your second defenseman or this and that to be able to pull through the same results that the first line does. So I think Carolina has done great on the terms of depth. I think they're going to protect this lead, and they're going to do what they do. I actually think minus 150 is a little disrespectful. I think they should be at least a minus 165, minus 170. That's what I kind of had it priced at. But nevertheless, I still don't want to pay minus 150. So I'm going to do the Hurricanes and over 3.5 as the play. I do like the over as well. I was seeing a couple people speak on Twitter and other talk shows on how we're going to get a lot of empty net goals, which I think definitely makes sense, because you got an Islanders team who needs this win badly, or it's over. They're back against the wall. So, they may pull the goalie early. They may come out to a fast start. 150 is a steal. It's definitely a steal. I agree. It's just, I was telling Ian before the show, sometimes when you get too caught up in paying these prices and it is a loss, it can just hurt the bankroll. So I've just learned over betting that I'd rather pay a -110 to a -125 if I can. I believe we can get to 4 goals. So I think adding that in is basically playing the money line, and that's kind of how I design the plays. So yeah, Hurricanes and over 3.5. I just don't think the Islanders are gonna have much left to give, and in this desperate situation, I don't know. I just think it's gonna be easy work for the Hurricanes, and they're gonna get the job done tonight.
Yeah, that's even money. That's like plus 100, -105 for that bet that Ben mentioned there. Carolina and over 3.5. I think if you like Carolina at all in this game, that's the way to approach it. I probably will put something on that. Carolina plus the draw, because that does look like it's got a good shot to hit for you. Because I do think if by nature Carolina's on the front foot. Did Carolina score the first goal in each of the 2 home games? They did.
Yeah.
And you got to think there's a good chance that happens again tonight. Carolina scores the first goal at home, and especially because they always seem to come out strong at home in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's going to open up the game completely because the Islanders, again, there's no tomorrow for them. They absolutely have to win this game to extend their season. So if they're trailing at any point, it's not sit back time for the New York Islanders. It's push the pace, it's push the attack, and that's going to lead to that more chances on goal and probably more chances for goals to be scored. So getting that total at 3.5 combined with Kane's money line, I think that's a good combo to look at. And again,
and you could. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, to get rid of any notion of laying the -160, that's another great way to approach it.
Yeah, I think, and I was also, I like to play around with all the totals. So, I'll look at it under 7.5 as well. The only thing is I like to pay attention to, and actually under 7.5, I think may actually be a better price. I'm not too sure, but
the thing is though, with teasing a game like this or not teasing, but putting an under in this kind of a game, same game parlay is
exactly
that explosion that could happen in an elimination game in the third period with the empty net and desperation and season on the line. And if if they're down 3-1 and there's an empty net goal 4-1 and there's still 4 minutes to go, don't rule out the coach pulling the goalie again.
Clearing. And that's the same type of mentality I have with a lot of these totals. Like with the Rangers, a couple people said, "Oh, let's do under 7.5 and instead of over 3.5." Look, I thought the Rangers were going to win last night, and when the Rangers have won, it's been high scoring, so we don't want to limit them. Same thing in this situation. We saw 2 games touch 7, so that's too close to comfort for me. The only one we saw go under 3.5 was the first game in Carolina. I think we see. Was it in Carolina? Yeah. Right? Yeah. It was in Carolina. Yeah. So I think we see some type of the same game, but mixed with the empty net goals.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And again, this could be one of those games too, where, let's be honest, they could be down. It could be 1-0 going into the third. That game tonight, and this game could still end up going over 3.5, and it could even approach that 5, the full game total, because it could be just explosion waiting to happen.
You just need to get to 2. You just need to get 2-1, and then you count on the empty net. That's really my process, and you just nailed it on the head. Even if it goes in 1-0, I'm still not sweating to the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. So, and by the way, I think when you look at it too, I think the Sorokin prop is worth a look too. Don't get me wrong. I think Carolina will have a lot of shots at home. That's just what they do. But I think the Islanders will also have more shots than normal. I think this will be one of the higher shots on goal combined from the 2 teams in this game tonight. So I think the save props for both goalies, Ronta and Sorokin, might both be worth a look. As far as shot props for this game, stick with what's working. For the Islanders, I'd probably go with Nelson, Barzal. Barzal, I think, is someone that's really got to be aggressive, look for his offense tonight. And on the Carolina side, Marty Necas, over 2.5. All 4 games, he's gone over 2.5 shots on goal. In this series, by the way. And same with Brent Burns. Brent Burns has just been a shooting magnet from the point for the Carolina Hurricanes. So if you're looking for shots on goal props, those are worth a look. Point props, same thing, Necas and Burns. Burns has really been chipping in nicely here. Seth Jarvis with the couple of goals the last game. Yeah, sometimes this is a guy that, can get hot for the Carolina Hurricanes, and sometimes he's a streaky player, but there's no doubt that he might be able to just find a little bit of the hot streak here for this Carolina Hurricanes team. So definitely interested to see if that continues. But definitely Seth Jarvis, streaky player, might be able to get there. Yeah, Parise, Pajot, and Hudson Fasching, your Seesaw in 11 is right. They've actually been a pretty good line for them. They haven't always chipped in offensively, but in terms of making things happen, generating chances, they've been all right in this series for the New York Islanders. And we'll see if they can extend this series tonight. All right, next up, we've got Game 5 between the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars. We've got Dallas minus 140, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. So I've got Dallas in the series. I really, really jumped in pretty heavy on Dallas in Game 4. I thought that was their spot to tie the series after a bad game in Game 3. I still think they're a little bit better team than Minnesota, although it's tough. And to be honest, that was not a convincing or dominant performance in victory by Dallas. In fact, they still needed Jake Ottinger to play extremely well in that game and bail them out on more than a couple of occasions. But when I look at this matchup here, I'm just not comfortable laying minus 140 in this spot with Dallas because Minnesota will push back pretty hard tonight in this game now that they lost the previous game. But I'll just sit back and hope Dallas wins because I've got them to win the series. As far as the injury situations go, obviously Pavelski still ain't returning anytime soon. Joel Eriksson questionable for tonight, although he hasn't resumed skating yet for the Minnesota Wild. So I have my doubts if he's going to end up playing tonight and returning for the Minnesota Wild in this game tonight, quite honestly. So as far as it goes, though, in this game, I think at the draw, again, is going to be a sprinkle for me. Again, at FanDuel, that's usually where you can get the best prices on the draw. And keep in mind, we almost got to overtime in Game 4. Dallas hung on for the 3-2 win, and not for a Jake Ottinger save with 10 seconds to go. That game could have went to OT. So I like the draw here at plus 330. It's obviously worth a look, in a series like this, which has been so competitive and so closely contested throughout the first 4 games. So that's what I'm looking at, just the draw. The total probably could go either way. We did finally see an under. There had been a couple of overs in a row in this series, but Game 4 did stay under the total, barely, but it did stay under the total. So don't really have a strong feel for the total. Just going to look at the draw. I like both goalies, by the way, over their saves prop tonight in this game. I like both goalies. Philip Gustafsson for Minnesota. I think with Minnesota being on the road, you're going to see the shot volume go up and increase for the Dallas Stars, especially compared to what it was in Game 4. So Gustafsson over 28.5 saves, minus 122. But I would also go with Jake Ottinger's saves prop as well, because I think Minnesota, and because it's only 25.5 right now at minus 124 at FanDuel. So I think both goalies can hit their save prop over tonight in this Wild Stars game. And then as far as the other props that I'm interested in for this game, it's going to be probably more so shots on goal rather than anything else. I do want to point out that for Dallas, I think if there's someone that's going to make an impact, maybe back on home ice, because I thought he was not very good in Minnesota, but he was good, and especially in Game 2 where Dallas romped over Minnesota, and that's Roope Hintz. For him to go 3 games in a row not making an impact, I'm not sure that'll happen. Plus 170 for him to score a goal. I am interested. Roope Hintz, a very good offensive player. I'd like to think Jason Robertson is, someone that's going to wake up, but I need to see it before I bet it with him. He's just not at a great series. I would look more toward Hintz, Ben, Sagan, those 3 in particular for the Dallas Stars right now offensively. And then on the Minnesota side, Matt Boldy's really been quiet this series. I wouldn't be rushing to bat him, but Ryan Hartman, just to get a point is minus 108. I think he's been certainly noticeable in this series. You could even sprinkle on a Marcus Foligno goal prop just because of the effort that guy's brought. Plus 590 if you really want to go bargain hunting on that. I think Kaprizov could find the back of the net. He's had some chances. It just hasn't gone in for him the last couple. Plus 135 for Kaprizov to find the back of the net. One prop that's been really good in this series is Matt Zuccarello, not only to get a point, but he scored a couple of goals, but he's been good for assists. Plus 125 for him to get an assist, is probably a good look. When you look at the lineup combinations as well, those are the main ones right now. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. I think it's not going to be a game with a boatload of goals anyway, so you just want to limit it to just a few options. Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Johansson, Maybe a little Hartman point prop, little sprinkle on Foligno because he's been active for Minnesota this series. And then for Dallas, Seguin, Ben, Hintz. Really, really focus on those three guys for them if you're looking at props tonight. What do you think here, Nick? Not Nick. Ben, what do you think here with I'm thinking of Nick Earl because I'm seeing Nick Earl's name pop up in the chat. What do you think here, Ben, Minnesota, Dallas?
Ian, how'd you know my real name?
Yeah. Yeah, you're not Ben, you're Nick. Straight bet Nick. Yeah.
Straight bet Nick. Same game
parlay. Us all
Ben
along.
and Nick.
Yeah.
All right, look, this has probably been, like, to me, the best series, the most intense series, if I should say. We're tied at 2-2. Listen, Dallas won that game the other night because of Ottinger. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They gave away 2 strong breakaway chances to Foligno, another one followed by Kaprizov, and Ottinger denied all of it. And I was watching his post game, and he was saying every guy on our team is going to have moments and where they need to stand up in the playoffs. And tonight it was me. And I think with all the mishaps that Dallas had, the breakaways, the giveaways, the sloppy passing they had in the first couple of periods, I think not only will we have Ottinger step up, but we'll also have Dallas step up again. I think we went back into the locker room. We had those conversations on where we messed up, and we're going to fix those little quirks. Now, look, the Wild have a chance of being a live dog tonight, especially with the series going back and forth. However, I just think that we're going to see certain players on the Stars step up. Robertson was completely invisible last game. I saw you tweet out about that. He had one assist. So we got to give him that, but 0 shots on goal. Wasn't producing like he usually does. And 17 minutes of ice time. So I believe he should have got at least a couple shots on goal to get that going. I feel like we've also seen, me personally, I feel like Tyler Seguin has been the only consistent player when it comes to scoring and assisting and shots on goal. He's hit his shots on goal, I think, every single game, 2.5. So at -135, I think that's a great look for him to get to 3 goals tonight.
I agree. One of the best shots on goal looks in this game for sure. 100%.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for sure. I leaned Dallas, but I did another same game parlay. I did Stars plus 1.5, under 2.5 total goals in the first period, and over 3.5 for full game. The over 3.5 can be a little worrisome, but we haven't seen this go 3 goals yet. So I believe we can get to at least 4. It may stay under the total for full game, but I think we can get to 4, and adding the over 3.5 with the under 2.5 first period gets us to even money. It actually really helps the prices when you mix the overs and unders. So that's how I'm looking to play this game. But I do lean the Stars, and I think the Stars have a good chance of taking the lead in this series again.
Yep. I'm just going to cheer for Dallas. Like I said, I don't really need to, add to the exposure of the dollars in play on the Dallas Stars. I've already cashed with them in Game 4, which I thought was a better spot for them than tonight, because I do think Minnesota will push back strong tonight. But I do still think Dallas wins the series. I'll just ride out the series bet, at least for tonight, and not add on with Dallas individually here in this Game 5. But I like Seguin over shots. My number 1 shot prop for sure in this game. Definitely that. Honorable mention to Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen, I think, over shots might be worth a look. This is a guy that shoots the puck a lot from the blue line as well. The price isn't bad, over 2.5 at -130 at FanDuel. And I think at home, we've seen Miro Heiskanen a little bit more willing to shoot the puck. It's like all the role players in the NBA, bench players. Bench players play better on home ice. They shoot the ball more because they're more comfortable. I think it's kind of like that with Miro Heiskanen, too, on the blue line for Dallas. He shoots the puck more at home because he's more comfortable. Look at the 2 home games in this series, 4 shots and 3 shots in those 2 games. So he went over 2.5 shots in both home games, Miro Heiskanen, for the Dallas Stars. So I like that shot prop as well tonight in this game. All right, great stuff. 222 live viewers here on YouTube. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Shout out to our podcast listeners as well. We'll be back with Ben and I to talk LA Edmonton Game 5 in just a moment, right after we hear from Gramco.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, we are back, and it is time to talk about a much-anticipated Game 5 following one of multiple. Obviously, Toronto had one last night, but another incredible comeback that took place a couple of nights ago was the Edmonton Oilers against the LA Kings. Down 3-0 after the first period. Hockey Twitter is basically just shredding Edmonton after that first period, just blasting them for how pathetic they were. And what a turnaround it was after that. They tie the game before the end of the second, 3-3. It ends up being 4-4 going to overtime. And then, of course, we saw what happened. The overtime game winner, courtesy of Zach Hyman, to tie the series up and send it to a best-of-3 starting tonight in Edmonton. Series tied 2-2, Game 5. Oilers minus 230, home favorites, 6.5 the total here in Game 5. There is just no way I'm touching Edmonton here, even though I still think they're going to win this series and I still like their chances. This is just not value, in my opinion, not even close as far as value is concerned. You look at this series, and every game has been pretty competitive, for the most part. There have been both teams have taken turns coughing up leads throughout this series. So this is a series where no lead is safe. We've seen it on display. Even if you go back to a Game 1, with that game where Edmonton had the lead, they coughed it up at home, and LA won in overtime, 4-3. Even in the Game 2 victory for Edmonton, they were up comfortably early. LA ties at 2-2, and then Edmonton does win 4-2. But again, LA erased a 2-goal deficit in that game, even though they lost. We saw what happened in Game 3. Edmonton was up 2-1. LA wins in overtime, controversial goal, but they get the win nevertheless, 3-2 in overtime. And then we saw LA with the lead in Game 4, 3-0, and it comes back with Edmonton 5-4 in overtime. So you've seen 3 games in this series. 3 of the 4 games go to overtime. You've seen both teams have trouble holding on to leads. What the hell would make you comfortable laying minus 230 with either team tonight, in this kind of a series? That's the way I'd feel the same way if it was LA minus 230 here tonight. Like, this is just not the price range that I want any part of, even as someone that thinks Edmonton is going to win this series here tonight. So this is another draw. I'm on the draw in all 3 games tonight in some fashion. And look, how can you argue with it? 3 of the 4 games have gone beyond overtime. Now, we're due for one game not getting to overtime. Maybe this is the one, but I'm back on it regardless. The draw here tonight with the Kings and the Oilers. And I'm also going to do a little small sprinkle on a combo of 2 LA bets. Small on the plus 190, a little bit more on the plus 1.5 for the LA Kings. And I don't take the plus 1.5 puck line very often. I don't. But this, I think, is a game where it makes sense. Like, we have seen 3 of the 4 games go to overtime, 1-goal games. Edmonton won 4-2 by 2 goals, at home in Game 2. And even that game, it was an empty net goal that gave them that 2-goal margin. So it was a 1-goal margin before that. You can get for the full game puck line here on Edmonton or on LA plus 1.5 at a reasonable minus 130, minus 135 price. So to me, it's a situation where I think if you're looking at this game, I do think Edmonton could have some pep in their step from the comeback win, and the first period they might be worth a look in the alternative puck. That's been the trend, especially at home. Fast starts for Edmonton. Edmonton has gone 2-0 to the first period puck line. I actually am going to bet that. That Edmonton -0.5 first period puck line. But the game flow in both home games was similar. Fast start for Edmonton, jumping out 2-0, I believe, in the first period of both of those home games against the LA Kings. Yeah, it was 2-0 in game one for Edmonton after one, and it was 2-0 for Edmonton in game two after one period. So I like that first period over as well. As a result, too. That's the one thing we've seen in this series is we have seen the first period over cash in both games in Edmonton in this series, and I think you got a good chance to see that again. Obviously, the last game between these two teams in LA, we saw the first period and the full game over cash, but the bottom line is 3 of the 4 games in this series, we've seen over 1.5 in the opening period. So this is a unique approach for me. I'm going a bunch of different ways here. Over 1.5, -140 in the first period. I'm going to take Edmonton -0.5, +130. Is the best price with that in the first period puck line. I'm also going to sprinkle on +190 Kings, +1.5, -130 full game puck line LA Kings, and the draw as well in this game. So it's really 5 bets that I've got pregame here with the Oilers and the Kings tonight, but various ones. And I think I've got a good chance to have 3-2, 4-1 or better, honestly, with these 5 bets. I like my read on the game flow and the game script for this game. And that's what it is with these playoff series. You have to have a game-to-game thought process in mind of how the game flow and the game script is going to go. And I could see it. Edmonton fast start, 2 goals in the first period. So the first period over, check. Edmonton first period puck line, check. And then LA does what they do. They don't panic. They battle back. Their defense gets better as the game goes on. And then we see LA live in the later stages of the game. So the money line's live. I like the +1.5 pregame, -130 with the Kings. And again, the draw, hard to argue with that when you've seen 3 of the 4 games in this series go to overtime. +400 at FanDuel, by the way, with the draw in this game. I especially think that you've got to look at that draw at that price. +400 is just, it shouldn't be that high. For 3 of the 4 games going to overtime and with how close this series has been, you shouldn't be able to bet a draw price in this series at +400, but you can, so I am going to take advantage of it. What do you think here, Ben? Kings Oilers.
Yeah, my apologies to anybody hearing my dog. I know it's a consistent thing on this show when I'm on. This has been probably my favorite series so far, the most entertaining, the most up and down, the most tight. It's just been so much fun, and I think this is a series destined to hit Game 7. Like you said, you need to come up with a script for these games. I've stuck to my script: Kings +2.5, and both teams to get over 1.5 goals. We were paying -135, and now with this ridiculous line change, I can't even really understand why it shot up so much for Edmonton, unless it was the goalie change. I did see Alex tweet out about some goalie change, and I would
it's going to be
like
Skinner in net for the Oilers tonight. Back to Stuart Skinner. I said on the show yesterday, I think that's what Jay Woodcroft's going to do. He's going to go back to Stuart Skinner, even though Jack Campbell entered the game in relief in Game 4 and played so well. I don't think you toss out Stuart Skinner this quickly. And it was not just him, that bad start in Game 4. The entire team was awful. You can't put it all on Stuart Skinner's shoulders. So I agree with this move. You put Skinner back in.
So what is this? Oilers roster move. Okay, I'm thinking I've read that whole tweet wrong. So that was my only concern. But yeah, so we're sticking to the same script here. Look, 2 tight games. We haven't even seen LA lose by 2. We've seen them either tie the game or win the game. Same thing with the Oilers. So this is short and sweet. We're sticking to the same formula here, +2.5, and both teams to get over 1.5 goals. It's just it's 4 for 4 at this point. And look, we may see the script change, but in the end of the day, I'm not deterring from it. Just like Ian's not jumping on Edmonton at -215. And I agree most people shouldn't even jump on regulation. I think it's just too risky of a bet with these 2 teams, especially how this series is going. I do believe Edmonton has the momentum. That's the one thing, when you win a game like that and it's in that fashion, I think I think it gives you momentum. It kind of reminded me of when the Kings went up like 6-0 versus the Blues, and then the Blues came back and tied the game up, and then it became 7-8 game. So I kind of actually felt that going in with Edmonton and LA, that even though we have that 3-0 lead, the Oilers are going to score some goals, and once they do, it's gonna come through. I saw you also tweet that if they don't come out and score in this period, it's over. And they did exactly what they were supposed to do. So I think we can see that from both teams. LA can do that. They're very savvy with their puck. They score goals in very unique ways. Their stick handling is good. They're a great all-around team, and as well as the Oilers, but they're very leaky at times, and you can't trust them fully. So like you said, I wouldn't take them on the puck line, and I wouldn't take them in regulation. I think if you find a script that works, then you stick to that. I just think this is going to be a 7-game series, and I think LA is being extremely disrespected on this line. So I think, yeah, if anything, rock with LA, but I'm still going to take the +2.5 and both teams over 1.5 goals, because that's just been straight money.
I like it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't care what the bet is. If you've been cashing with it repeatedly, you stick to it. If it keeps coming through for you. And for you, that's LA +2.5 and both teams over 1.5 goals. So
yeah, and we actually get that at -115. It usually -135, but shout out to all the Oilers fans who are just hammering that line. It gives us a better price on that. So yeah, just if it doesn't hit tonight, it doesn't hit. I'm still not going to be mad because it's worked so well. But I think it's the best way to attack this game.
Yeah, and those same game parlays, those creative creations, if you will, of Ben have been pretty good for him here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So with those, as far as props go for this final game, and this is probably the one I'm most looking forward to, because this whole series has been so captivating, and it's not much separation between these two teams. But I like Trevor Moore for LA over shots on goal. All of a sudden, Trevor Moore, by the way, he's had 6 and 7 shots on goal in the last 2 games. Now, those were in LA. In Edmonton in this series, he didn't go over 2.5 shots on goal. So that's the risk with this prop, is that game 1 and in game 2 in Edmonton, he only had 3 shots on goal combined, but he flew over the over 2.5 in LA. I'm hoping it continues tonight for Trevor Moore. So I like his prop. Kempe, I like over shots on goal for LA as well. On the Edmonton side, there's a bunch of different options. McDavid in a game of this magnitude where you can go up 3-2 in the series. I think he'll be an active volume shooter here tonight as well for the Edmonton Oilers in this game. So his shot on goal prop as well over 3.5. Same with Draisaitl, the 2 big guns. I think they both can go over 3.5 tonight. Their shots on goal. Draisaitl to score a goal, McDavid to score a goal. Now that Kane and Hyman have gotten some level of confidence, maybe a little sprinkle on their goal prop as well here in this game. And of course, I mean, I don't even have to say it anymore, but Evan Bouchard, of course. The point prop is the gift that keeps on giving, and I'm still seeing -135 at DraftKings for him to get a point tonight, which is utterly insane that the price is still that cheap on Evan Bouchard for the Edmonton Oilers to get a point. And I wouldn't stop there, especially on home ice. And I think Edmonton's going to be able to get some power plays, playing at home like they did in the first 2 games. I would also maybe look at an Evan Bouchard to score +400. We saw his Bouch bomb, as they call it, from the point, end up getting Edmonton going in that game 4 comeback. And +400 for him to score a goal. It's worth a sprinkle when you see how active he has been in the Oilers offense in this series. And even to get an assist, is a little bit better price than just the point prop. Point prop is -135. Bouchard to get an assist +125 at Bet99, +110 at other books. So absolutely. And the shots on goal, because I think he's starting to really pepper that puck on net more often as well. So you could attack, and you could even go with power play points for Evan Bouchard, because he's always a threat on the man advantage. So any Bouchard prop that you can find is probably a good bet right now with that guy. And obviously, the point prop is the number 1 look, but don't shy away from the goal prop, the assist prop, the power play point prop, shots on goal, anything and everything Evan Bouchard that you can find should put some money in your pocket right now. Good stuff. Straight Bet Ben joining us as always, once again here on the Ice Guys show. Great to have him with us. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Shout out to our podcast listeners. We'll be back to wrap it up with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, it is time for best bets. But before we do, a reminder, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, daily Ice Guys show betting card, bonus content, and more. Make sure you sign up and subscribe, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 a month. And check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com as well to get some great merchandise there. And, of course, the Betcast tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Looking forward to it. DM me or email me to get the link for the Betcast, and we will send it to you before it begins. Live betting and commentary, me, Alex B. Smith, and all of our viewers and listeners as guests, drinking encouraged. So, again, DM at Bobano on Twitter or email bobano350@gmail.com, and we will get you the link for the Betcast before it begins tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right, best bets to wrap up the show. Ben, what do you got for best bet?
So I'm going to rock with the Hurricanes money line plus over 3.5 at -115. I think we see Carolina hold this lead in the series. And if they get up early in the game, which they have in every home game, I think they'll continue to hold that lead. Hurricanes are 9-1 in the last 10 playoff games at home, and Islanders are 2-8 in the last 2-10 in the last, or 2-8 in the last games in Carolina. So let's rock with the Hurricanes money line and over 3.5.
All right, Carolina Hurricanes and over 3.5, right around even money with that as well for Ben with his best bet for this Tuesday card. My best bet for tonight, tough decision here, but I think for best bet, I'm going to end up going with, you can bet it pregame, so I'm going to recommend it, a pregame third period over bet in this Islanders Hurricanes game. Over 2 plus 128 is available, I believe, at Bet Rivers. I would rather have the plus 128 over 2 rather than lay the minus 160 or minus 175 with over 1.5. So that's what we'll go with for best bet. Let's do it. Islanders Hurricanes over 2 plus 128 in the third period. Our first crack at a elimination game third period over this season in the playoffs, and let's see if we can cash with it. Third period over 2 plus 128 Islanders Hurricanes for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Betcast tonight, of course. Looking forward to that. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Straight Bet Ben, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the games and good luck. See you in a few hours for the Betcast, presented by National Hockey Now.